Hi, it's the Herd. One great resolution you can make for the new year, and we all make them, maximize every minute and every dollar for your small business. I know an easy way to do that. Stamps.com. Think about how much time you've wasted in your life going to the post office, driving around, trying to find parking. Is it me or does every post office have no parking? Stamps.com is just a better way to get postage. Use what you already have, your computer and printer, to get official U.S. postage for any letter or any package. Then the mailman picks it up. With Stamps.com, everything you do at the post office, you can do from your desk. Told you you'd like it. And at a fraction of the cost of one of those expensive postage meters. Right now, sign up for Stamps.com. Use my code Colin for this special offer. It's a 4-week trial plus a $110 bonus offer, including postage and a digital scale. Don't wait. Go to Stamps.com. Ditch the post office. Before you do anything else, click on the mic, top of the homepage, type in Colin. That's Stamps.com, enter Colin. Stamps.com. You'll never have to circle the post office again. This is The Herd, wherever you may be and however you may be listening, live in Miami, South Beach, Marlins Park, iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, and FS1. Christine Leahy and I, 1 year ago today in San Diego for the All Star game. We are in the wild, adventurous Marlins Park, where for the first time in my career, I will be serenaded to open my show. This is not Romeo and Juliet. It's Pitbull and the Herd.
So romantic.
Pitbull is performing. He is doing a sound check for the next 20 minutes. Now, fortunately, our amazing engineers have made it very easy for me to hear. But I'm being serenaded by Pitbull, the soothing tones of Pitbull.
I heard he was trying to recruit you to be a backup dancer.
Oh, you have no idea how uninterested I would be in that. But nonetheless, the commissioner of baseball, Rob Manfred, joins us this hour. Dion Waiters got a new contract for the Miami Heat, is joining us. Alex Rodriguez, Joe Buck, John Smoltz, Kevin Burkhardt. We are loaded today. And I want to start. We had a real fun time last night. Went out. South Beach is just different. There are certain places in America that just feel different. And South Beach in Miami, Christine and I went to our bosses months ago and said, let's do the All-Star game again. We had so much fun last year. There's Pitbull. Cue the music. And so we start our show today. And I want to start with this. Sometimes in life, you need to just enjoy stuff. Now, I didn't watch a lot of those Transformer movies. That really wasn't my thing. But they made $4 billion. If you really know what the Transformer movies are about, it's about an alien robot becoming a car. Don't overthink Transformers. Go to the movie and try to enjoy it. This is the way I look at water parks for my kids. My kids love water parks, and so I take my kids a couple of times a summer to a water park. I know it's a 200-acre habitat for germs. I know if you just combine big slide and toilet equals water park. I know that, Christine, but I go to the water park because my kids love it. I don't overthink it. I can take a shower when I get home, and it's just fun for 2 hours. Baseball needs to just sometimes embrace stuff. In the NBA, when scoring goes up, we celebrate it. I mean, we love Steph Curry and James Harden, and we love Kevin Durant. When football scoring goes up, we talk about the golden era of quarterbacks. When hockey scoring goes up, we acknowledge it's great for the game. Baseball is now on record to shatter all their home run records, and the takeaway from seamheads is the ball's juiced, it's not right, enjoy baseball. Tonight we're going to have a home run derby, and in my recent memory of home run derbies, we've never had one where Aaron Judge of the Yankees, Giancarlo Stanton, you've got young stars, not just stars, but young stars hitting home runs at a record pace. Sit back, baseball, enjoy it. Don't overanalyze it. Don't overanalyze water parks. You'll take the fun out of it. Don't overanalyze every movie. They are actors. They're pretending to be people. Don't overanalyze baseball. You got record home runs. The All-Star game is here. The Yankees, the Dodgers are really, really good. So are the Red Sox. I don't know if the Cubs make the playoffs. John Smoltz, Joe Buck later on that. Alex Rodriguez on our show. I think sometimes you forget. Right now in America, more people are watching baseball than at any time in the history of the sport. It is its most financially successful and is narrowly behind the NFL if you count RSNs, local TV, national TV. Sit back, enjoy it. Sometimes baseball eats itself alive. Want to shift gears to this. So over the course of a weekend, James Harden signed a big fat contract with the Houston Rockets, and he's going to make like $230 million. And a lot of people are like, wow, that's unbelievable. I would actually tell you that NBA contracts are really great contracts because the most you can sign for is like 5 years. Now, this is one of my beliefs in life. I don't ever go on cruise ships. Now, we're in Miami right now, which is sort of the cruise ship capital of North America. A lot of the cruise ships go out of the port over here. I don't do cruises. Christine and I were talking about this morning. The reason I don't do cruises is you're at sea. And then you'll see these people that go on 2-week cruises. And the first day there's salmonella, the second day there's a storm, the third day there's sunburn, and you're out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean.
You're ruining vacations for people worldwide right now while Mr. Worldwide is performing behind us.
Here's my personality. I don't like to be trapped. So I don't go on cruises. I wouldn't want to be. What if you're from Kansas and you don't have the ocean and you've never been in a boat and you book a cruise with your wife and 2 days in it's like, oh, I get seasick. And you're literally in, I don't know, you're off the coast of, you're in the Caribbean.
Yes.
You're trapped. So what I do is I go on 2-day vacations. So let's say my wife and I get into a fight. I can just get in a plane and leave her. So that's the key, really, to vacations is doing very, very quick vacations. My kids are obnoxious. My wife starts hating me. I can just say, Southwest Airlines, here I come. So my whole point is in the NBA. In the NBA, let's say you sign a bad contract. They're only 5 years. In baseball, Robinson Cano's is 10. Pujols is 10. David Price is 7. I have no problem paying James Harden $230 million. Because I know at the end of this contract, James Harden, even if he got injured, is still going to be awesome. My bigger concern is signing a 10-year contract, and I can't get out of it. So I think people get too worked up on NBA contracts. If I owned a team, I have no problem, even if you sign a terrible contract. Let's take the Lakers. They signed the Mozgov contract and the Luol Deng contract. They're not good contracts. They already had somebody take the Mozgov contract off their hands.
Well, I agree with you that James Harden is worth every single penny, but you realize there's the flip side to this, that if your vacation is awesome, you might want to stay for 7 days rather than 2. Or maybe James Harden is really great and you'd like to keep him for longer without having to sign another contract worth more money.
But I think if I lived in the world of ownership or general managership, that I would rather take the risk of he might leave me. I'll just treat him really well, and the organization will surround him with the best possible players, and I'll treat somebody really well. What I do worry about secondarily with baseball contracts is complacency. That's why I've never thought I would be a good broadcaster with a 10-year contract. I'd get lazy.
Sure.
Is that the short of the contract, it forces me to go to work, grind, have to impress my bosses, have to be a good teammate. And so in the end, whenever I read an NBA contract, people just freak out. And my takeaway is, no, it's okay. You, as a fan, what you should root against is getting trapped. And if you have a 10-year contract, I mean, that Albert Pujols contract will now limit what the Angels can do in their bullpen or maybe get a great third baseman. That's scary as a fan. That's when fans lose. Fans don't lose. Even the Lakers right now feel good about their future, and they have that Luol Deng contract, which is a terrible contract.
So you want to go on vacations with an opt-out clause, essentially.
I think if I ever went on a cruise, Christine, I would want a helicopter opt-out 3 days in.
Okay, I don't know what cruise line offers that, but I would recommend you stay away from cruises and take a longer vacation.
Now,
sometimes you need it.
Can I ask this? Have you ever gone on a cruise?
Yes, I hated it.
Okay, but why?
Why did I hate it?
Yes.
Because I was stuck on a boat.
Okay, that's my point.
But I don't go on cruises. But I also see that if I go on a 7-day vacation sometimes, it might be awesome and I want to stay longer. I don't want to bolt.
By the way, if you want to stay longer, you just go to the hotel 4 days in and say, can I make it 9, not 7 days, and extend it. And generally they have space. So I guess my point today is first, enjoy life. Don't overanalyze things baseball. Home run record. Enjoy it. Put your arms around it. It's fun. we're here, and we're here right now because the sport's having a little bit of a home run renaissance. We didn't have to come here. We wanted to come here. Secondarily, with the NBA and contracts, as a fan, just don't get trapped like the Angels are now. I think, by and large, Portland's got some really bad deals, but by and large, you can wiggle yourself out of a bad NBA deal. It's 5 years. By the way, at the end of this next year, Luol Deng only has a couple of years for the Lakers, and there'll be teams that buy that contract because it's an expiring contract within 2 years. All right, I want to touch on a lot of things today. The baseball commissioner's on the other side as Pitbull. Yes.
He's giving us everything tonight.
How many shows in America right now can give you this sort of dialogue and Pitbull in the backdrop?
That is good. Now, are you telling me, Colin, you don't want to just join them for 5 minutes?
I like Pitbull. I think you'd fit in. I enjoy his music. I think he has what I would say, Pitbull's got the kind of music everybody can play along.
Sure.
Like everybody can play along with Pitbull music. That's nothing against Radiohead. You know, nothing against these sort of like esoteric groups. Fish. I know I just offended the state of Vermont. But like Pitbull, we can all play along with Pitbull.
You can dance.
I can't play along with a lot of bands.
So it's okay. Well, Pitbull is for you then.
Look at this picture. Our crew deserves a lot of credit. Is that our camera crew down there?
I would hope so.
We have that many people here?
I've never seen him with his sunglasses off. There it is.
Oh, my God. He doesn't know he's on TV right now. Pitbull's like, I'm going to take my sunglasses off.
He's upset that we're doing this show, actually. He's complaining right now. Right. Get them off.
Commissioner Rob Manfred around the corner. Dion Waiters of the Heat, top of next hour. Alex Rodriguez, Joe Buck, John Smoltz, Kevin Burkhardt. We are loaded today. Marlins Park in Miami. Christine and I even dressed the part. I don't have white Well, I do have.
You do have white pants on.
Beige. Yeah, I do. Welcome back, Miami Marlins Park. It's the Herd. Christine Leahy joining me as always. Baseball's commissioner in 10 minutes. Rob Manfred will stop by. Alex Rodriguez also stopping by. Dion Waiters of the Miami Heat, top of next hour. Second year in a row, we're at the Baseball All Star game. I think next year it's in D.C., so I'm sure we'll be at that one.
We're going to go to D.C.?
I think so.
We only go warm places.
We prefer to go warm places.
San Diego.
You and I, it's nothing against Juneau. There's nothing. Super Bowl's in Minnesota, so I got to take that back. They'll do a good job. I want to start with this. As you can hear, once again, the soothing tones of Pitbull behind us.
Soothing.
Over the weekend, and this happened this weekend, Lonzo Ball played his first and his second game in the Summer League. And my projection is he's going to set all sorts of Summer League records, attendance, TV ratings. And yes, Las Vegas sold out for the first time for a Lakers-Celtics Summer League game Saturday. 14 years, $30 a pop, they sold out. So my first prediction was, I didn't know what his numbers were going to be. I didn't really care what his numbers were. Some guys just have a magnetism, and he's got it. And they sold out the games. And if you watch the games, it was live. Not just Celtics-Lakers. Lonzo was a big part of it. Now, a lot of people today are saying, Colin, did you see this and did you see that? What I saw was exactly what I thought I would saw. He is a very long and fluid athlete that defensively will not be a great on-ball defender, but because of his length will be a good team defender, a lot of tip passes. He is extraordinarily long for a point guard. He had 11 rebounds. He's going to have a lot of rebounds. He'll be a good team defender. He's not Russell Westbrook dynamic jamming at the rim. But he's got good range, though he was shaky shooting. He is a tremendous passer. He is very clever. And what he has a style. This should not be marginalized. Let me explain. Not every great basketball player has a style. Paul George is a great basketball player. Doesn't have a style. Dr. J did. MJ did. Kobe did. Kareem in the skyhook did. Bill Russell did. Iverson, the crossover, had a style. Magic Johnson's passes. Larry Bird's shooting. I can look and see it right now. Not all great players have a style. Yao Ming, Paul George. I grew up as a kid. Kiki Vandeweghe, Alex English. I don't see him as real style mavens. Lonzo has a style. He is long and angular and clever and loose and fun. It's a style, and you see it develop. And I'll tell you why it's important. I'll make a little prediction here. that Steph Curry also has a style. He's the best ball handler in the league and the best shooter. And we have heard various reports over the last couple of years, 2 and 3 years, that young people are going into gyms, 7, 8, 9 years old, and they want to be Steph. And they want to be Steph. And they want to shoot, and that's all they want to do, shoot threes. That's what basketball's always had over other sports. It's worship-driven. So as a young boy, I grew up, had a favorite player, and I mimicked him. I didn't mimic my favorite baseball players, and I didn't copy my favorite NFL players. But as a kid, I would do a sky hook. And as a kid, I had certain guys, downtown Freddie Brown in Seattle, that I replicated the way he shot. What Steph Curry is doing to the three-point shot, changing 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds in a gym, Lonzo Ball has the potential to do for passing, which is a really good thing for basketball. That passing wasn't always the coolest thing. Then Magic Johnson arrived, and the behind-the-back pass reinvented. Lonzo Ball, what Steph did to shooting, Lonzo could do to passing. And maybe in 3 or 4 years, we look at these ball-centric point guards like Chris Paul and Russell Westbrook and James Harden and say, pass more and shoot less. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but he does have a style. It is very easy to spot, and I can't wait to watch it play out. And let me say this. Being a Laker matters. People have compared him to Jason Kidd. But Jason Kidd came out and played for the terrible Mavericks, then the Suns, then the Nets. Had Jason Kidd joined the Lakers, and as big as Jason Kidd is, he would have been a legend. Now he's just a great basketball player. This is what Jim Harbaugh does to Michigan. Jim Harbaugh was crazy in Stanford. He's becoming a legend in Michigan. Brett Favre in Jacksonville is just a Hall of Famer. In Green Bay, he's a legend. John Calipari was well known. Then he took the Kentucky job. Now he's a legend. When you get style and personality and quirkiness, and it combines with Yankees, Kentucky basketball, Lakers, Real Madrid, that's when you get superstardom. Because very few people have the ability of LeBron to be in Ohio and be a star. He's just absurd. Had Jason Kidd been a Laker first, his profile would be significantly bigger today because his numbers tell you he was remarkable. So Lonzo, if he averaged 12 and 11 assists, he will be a superstar in L.A. And in Orlando, he'd be a really, really good basketball player. Christine with the news.
Turn on the news. This is the Herdline News.
First of all, I'm loving that we have fireworks and backup dancers for the Herdline News. This is absolutely a first. Well, the Cubs are batting .239 this season, which is third worst in all of baseball. 43 and 45, 5.5 games back of the Brewers in the NL Central. So needless to say, they are not doing how everyone kind of expected them to do after they won the World Series last year. So Ken Rosenthal of Fox Sports is now saying that the Cubs have examined all options to try to get better, and that includes trying to trade one of their young position players to try to shake up the clubhouse. As you mentioned earlier, you and I, we both went to dinner with a lot of the baseball guys last night. We're talking to John Smoltz about this and the options that they have to try to shake up the Cubs.
You know, sometimes, Christine, in basketball, generally, if you're good, it'll last a while, 3 or 4 years. But baseball's different. Pitchers can go down. Also, you know, baseball can be a very streaky sport, and sometimes batters go cold post trading deadline or post All-Star game. So if you go look at the history of baseball, now there were the Yankees in the 90s that had so much talent, but it's hard to repeat in baseball. I mean, look at the San Francisco Giants. They have won a World Series, terrible. Won a World Series, now the Giants are awful. It is hard. That's why what the Dodgers do, they're good every year without winning a series, is really hard to maintain.
And it's hard to get a consistent, really good pitching staff.
Yes.
You're going to like this. So Mark Cuban at Summer League was talking. He always has something interesting to say, right? And he said, we're, of course, rebuilding. If we were in the East, we wouldn't be. So I think I'm actually going to kidnap Adam Silver and not let him out until he moves us to the Eastern Conference. And he's saying, basically, given where we are and where the Warriors are, there's no point in us trying to compete right now, so we're going to rebuild. But if we were in the East, then things would be different.
You know, it's funny. If you're in the West right now, you probably should be patient. One of the things I've said about the Celtics is, hey, these other teams in 7-8 years, they may, the Greek freak may take the league over. So when you're Boston and you're close, my belief is go for it. But if you're Dallas and not close, then just rebuild because you're not going to win anyway. So for Dallas, like if I was Philadelphia and I have these young players, LeBron's out in about 4 years, I'd start looking at some veterans to add to those young guys.
Well, now they have Harrison Barnes, Nerlens Noel, and Dennis Smith Jr., so they think those are kind of the cornerstones that they'll build on that. And can I remind you, though, Danny Ainge did get Gordon Hayward in free agency.
And gave up Avery Bradley.
I don't like that either, but they had to do something. And finally, we were talking a lot last week about this tipping situation. It's become a thing where now if you're a celebrity or if you make a lot of money, you have to tip really well no matter what kind of service you got, or people will put your check on Twitter and call you out for it. And this happened to Andre Robertson. He tipped $14 on a $500 bill. Granted, he went to the bar and it was a bottle of champagne.
It's a bottle service.
Right, one bottle. So, I mean, I would have tipped a little more than 14, but I also understand why it wasn't necessarily 20%. So this time now, according to TMZ Sports, they caught him. He went out to dinner on Thursday at the Texas Roadhouse in Texas and tipped 30%. And I just don't think this is right. I don't think he should have to tip 30% just because some waiter got mad and put it on blast. And by the way, it's so not fair to do that because what if the waiter himself was really a bad waiter, but there's no way to call him out for it?
By the way, Christine, anybody who's ever waited tables, I have not, but I've worked in restaurants.
I have.
Every night you'll get a great tipper. Every night you'll get an awful tipper. It tends to work out over time. Don't call people out. You don't know their circumstance.
It doesn't work out over time. I'll tell you, I was a waitress at Chili's, and I was a bartender in college, and it doesn't work out because you actually have to tip the bar backs and the servers and different things, different percentages of how much money you sold throughout the night. So in essence, it probably cost that guy money to serve the bottle of champagne to Andre Robertson.
He got to meet an NBA player. It probably made his night.
That's the news.
Christine with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
And Christine and I are now joined by Major League Baseball's commissioner who took the office in January of 2015, Rob Manfred. How are you, Commissioner?
I'm great, Colin. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. You don't exactly major in commissioner and minor in baseball, so you take it over 2 years ago. What is the first part of your job where it was a hot wind? It was, wow, I'm the commissioner.
Well, it first hit me right after the election. I went back to New York, and the people that work in our licensing group came in, and they had these index cards, and they said to me, you need to write your name. Thinking, why do I have to write my name? And I had never thought about it, but it was to start making baseballs. And that was kind of when it hit me. We needed to make baseballs for, it was August of 2014. We needed to make baseballs for the 2015 season, and they wanted my signature on it as opposed to Bud's. And, I was sitting there that day. They were kind of like nuns from grammar school criticizing my handwriting, to tell you the truth. And but it did hit me sitting at my desk. This really happened.
Well, it's interesting because sometimes baseball is held to a higher standard. If scoring goes up in basketball like it is, celebration.
Right.
Scoring goes up in hockey or football. But scoring goes up in baseball and home runs, and all the seam heads come out and go, oh, the balls are juiced. And my takeaway is, can you enjoy it? You're having more people have watched baseball today than at any time in our lives.
That's right.
World Series highest rating in 12 years. Do you feel sometimes that the traditionalists kind of beat your sport up a little bit?
Well, they are a tough audience. I will agree with that. But, I try to keep in mind that the traditionalists are tough on us because they care so much about the sport.
Right.
They want to make sure that we're not ever doing the wrong thing, that we're doing the best we can to preserve and enhance the game. So I try to take it as a compliment. The ball controversy's been an interesting one, but the game has changed a lot. People are focused on home runs.
That's right.
It's not just home runs. It's home runs, lots of strikeouts, more tolerance for strikeouts.
That's right. That's what it is.
Yeah, just a very, very different game now than it was even a decade ago.
Yeah, when I was a kid growing up, I remember the Cincinnati Reds, and there was big scoring, and then we went through a pitcher's era. It's cyclical, and just like television or radio, we shift, we recalibrate.
Right.
As sports do the same thing. You have right now very good ownership stability. The NBA has some issues. They did for years with Charlotte, New Orleans. NFL right now has a team moving to Vegas, 2 teams moving to Los Angeles.
Right.
It does bring up an interesting question, though. What is the line? Because I've been critical of the NFL that if the Packers were moving, they'd step in and say, no. But the Chargers are allowed to move. What is the line for you, Commissioner, if you had instability with an ownership group, you stepping in or letting the free market play out?
Well, two different scenarios, I think, that you have to think about. The first one is relocation. We have been very, very hesitant to relocate our franchises. It's because communities make such a commitment to baseball. 81 home dates. It's just a huge commitment to support a baseball team. My own thought on relocation is we would only relocate if we reached the conclusion that a city or a metropolitan area was unable to help the club get a major league quality facility. That's kind of the line that I think of on relocation. In terms of owners themselves, the market has been very good about disciplining owners in terms of when they should sell and when they shouldn't sell, and particularly in an era where we have huge increases in franchise values, we have not had to confront those situations. Usually an owner gets into trouble. Fortunately, there's been someone to take them out, usually at an increase.
By the way, digital numbers through the roof, TV revenue, gate revenue, 30 years from today. Will the revenue change? Will digital be driving it?
Oh, it will definitely change the revenue mix. I think the fortunate thing for baseball is we'll always have that great in-park experience.
Right.
And gate is so important in our game. Remember, we draw somewhere between 74 and 75 million people to baseball live every year. And we'll always have that base of revenue to support us. But on the media side, I think we're during a period where you're seeing tremendous change. One of the things that we've realized is we need to deliver our game on all the platforms that particularly younger fans want to use.
We're doing the same thing with our business.
Right. Absolutely. And as a matter of fact, we've worked with Fox very closely in terms of some of those changes. But I do think that digital will become more and more important as a revenue stream for us.
Commissioner Rob Manfred joining us here in the herd. Christine Leahy joining me. I see today that 11 of 17 starters elected to this year's All Star game are 28 years old or younger. Your participation numbers have increased over the last several years. Footballs have not. I think domestic growth, as diverse as you are and as global as you are, I think the home base for any sport in America should be here, and a strong domestic base. You have had a turn-up in participation. When did you notice it, and why?
Well, we started thinking about youth participation during the period of time that they were selecting a new commissioner. One of the things that I realized talking to some of the folks we were working with was we had underinvested in youth participation. We just hadn't spent enough time and money in that space. And right after I became commissioner, we launched the Play Ball initiative. We began investing in fields, particularly fields in underserved areas.
Really important.
Yeah. And we formed some great partnerships. I was with Cal Ripken this morning at a field dedication. Groups like Cal Ripken Baseball, Little League Baseball, obviously they do the bulk of the work. But when you put Major League Baseball's muscle behind those programs, it does help to drive participation. Another one I have to mention, the U.S. Conference of Mayors has been an absolutely fabulous partner to Play Ball. They were our first partner, and they conduct these Play Ball events in cities, and they're designed to attract the kid that hasn't played yet. So you get them in, usually have some Major League players or former Major League players there. They do some fun drills with the kids. They try to teach kids that you don't need to have 18 kids and an umpire in order to play baseball. And then you have a sign-up table for Little League or the local youth league. And they've been just great events. I think there'll be 240 of them around the country this year.
Do you think it's possible you have benefited from a concussion issue in many other sports, not yours?
I don't have a lot of rules. One is that I try not to talk about other sports. I will say this. We try to emphasize to parents that our game is a game that teaches kids great values like teamwork, stick-to-itness, and that it's a safe game. And we have found traction on both of those themes.
Yeah. Rob Manfred, baseball's commissioner, joining us here in Miami. Christine and I look, well, you look like a commissioner.
What are you trying to say,
We look
Colin?
very Miami today in this beautiful backdrop behind us. So the home run derby tonight, and I'm a fan of home runs. I don't think it's the most exciting play in baseball. I think a play at the plate is. I love a stolen base. I like first to third. I like when a guy in right field can show off his arm, bang, bang plays at bases. But in my lifetime, my first favorite player was Johnny Bench. And Pete Rose was on that team, but he had singles. Right. So you have Aaron Judd. You have Giancarlo Stanton. Listen, I could make the argument that home runs equal stars. So when people overreact to the home run output, and you guys are, my takeaway is it's great for the sport, right?
Yeah. Look, I hate to quote you to you. I think the sport goes through cycles. Yeah. You know, sometimes pitching's dominant. Sometimes hitters are more dominant. We have seen a change in the way that the game is taught at the youth level. A change in approach at the major league level, way more analytics, way more tolerance of plays like strikeouts that people didn't used to like.
So uppercut your swing.
Right. Less interest in the stolen base, you know, all these analytics. Right. And as a result, the game's being played a little different. I will say, our research shows our fans like home runs.
Yes.
I mean, it is what it is.
When I was a kid, I would go to NBA games. I would get there for the warm-ups to see, like, Dr. J dunk.
Okay.
Like batting practice, I want to go back to McGuire, Sosa, and the balls out of the park.
Well, I think the most important point to make with respect to this, and it's particularly true in this era where analytics play such a big part of the game, whatever changes you're seeing out there in terms of the way the game is being played, it's as a result of really smart general managers and managers deciding that these changes give their teams the best chance to win.
Of course.
And fans should take great solace in that. I mean, that's really what the game's about. The game will evolve as people try to figure out new ways to win.
One of the things, you have great global diversity with your sport, and that means there's a lot of cultures in your sport. Now, the downside is sometimes there's language barriers, player to manager. Right. Most of it's good. It's a world's game. It is interesting, though, and the NFL just tweaked their celebration rules. The NFL said, we're going to let our players celebrate more. Soccer really lets their players celebrate. I love it. Mm-hmm. I love it. But there is an old school way to play.
Right.
Sometimes, do you ever feel like saying, all right, as commissioner, new rule. Let celebrations be part of our game.
Well, let me say two things about that, Colin. First, I don't know how much of the WBC you watched.
Oh, no, it's wild.
Yeah, and it is. The game was played differently. It's very hard to argue with that. And I will say our demographics for those broadcasts were very different. I mean, about 10 years younger, far larger Hispanic audience than we get with our traditional products. So there's maybe some learning in there. We're still thinking about what we should take from that. But maybe the more important point is this. What happens on the field in terms of celebration for us has, unlike some other sports, has not really been a product of us taking or not taking disciplinary activity. It's been a product of the unwritten rules that the players have developed.
Right.
My own thought on this is that as our workforce changes, it becomes younger, more diverse, those unwritten rules are going to change. And I have a lot of confidence in our players that those rules will change in a way that is, A, good for the sport, and B, always respects the sort of tradition of the game.
By the way, being a commissioner is interesting because, like, if you're the NBA commissioner, you have to deal with Mark Cuban. You're dealing with a lot of really successful guys.
Right.
And even though you're the commissioner of sport, a commissioner works for the owners. Are there funny moments when you have to deal with owners? You're dealing with temperamental, emotional billionaires.
Well, my thought in terms of dealing with owners was that I needed to find my own path early. Right. Commissioner Seelig was a little different. He was an owner.
Right.
And it puts him in a little different position in terms of dealing with his peers and whatnot. And my approach has been this. I've tried to give the owners a lot of opportunity for input in the governance process. Okay. We have a very deep and thorough committee structure. I've tried to get everyone involved, and I think that an opportunity to participate early on issues and to help formulate where we're going to be in terms of policy has served me well in terms of getting consensus among the group. Some of the conversations are funny. You have your moments, just like with any set of group dynamics, but it really has not been a major challenge so far.
Well, last year we had so much fun in San Diego. We told our bosses about 3 months ago, let's go to the All-Star game again. The home run derby tonight, in recent memory, there has not been one like this. I can see how baseball's working. Giancarlo Stanton on one side, Aaron Judge on the other, and Cody Bellinger. Absolute pleasure to have you. Home run derby tonight. Thank you so much.
It was great to be here, Colin. Really enjoyable.
Pitbull behind us. He's Pitbull. He does what he wants. It's Miami. Back in the Herd next. Welcome back, Marlins Park, Miami. I want to thank baseball's commissioners Rob and Manfred for stopping by. Dion Waiters, Miami Heat just signed a big new contract. Will be joining us. Miami Heat are very popular in this town. And Alex Rodriguez stopping by today with Kevin Burkhardt, Joe Buck, John Smoltz stopping by. Went to dinner last night with Joe Buck and A-Rod and friends of A-Rod. It was full of famous people. And it's great to have you in on a Monday. We'll be here today, home run derby tonight. Then we'll be here tomorrow, game tomorrow, and then we're back in Los Angeles. So there are a lot of geniuses in the world. Actually, there's not. Elon Musk, Steve Jobs was, Bill Gates, Stephen Hawking. I think there's like business geniuses. Mark Cuban's very, very smart. But now it's time for another edition of The World's Dimmest Genius, starring Danny Ainge.
You couldn't leave this in L.A.
So Danny Ainge, I've been told now for several years, is a basketball savant. He's got it all figured out. Isaiah Thomas, all 5'8.5", said over the weekend, the Celtics better bring the Brinks truck, said the 5'8.5" point guard who's a defensive liability.
You're knocking a guy for being short.
Not only will he be 29 next summer,
old,
but questions remain about his ability to lead a team to a title due to limitations on the defensive end. So, of course, what Boston could really use with his contract coming up, they could really, really use a young point guard. Oh, wait. This year, there were half a dozen in the draft, and Boston didn't get Lonzo or De'Aaron Fox or Fultz. They traded away their pick for a very good wing player, Jason Tatum.
You're making two arguments here.
The problem is next year's draft, and they probably have the number 1 or 2 pick, has no point guards. And the best 7 players out of college or international next year are wings, which the Celtics have an abundance of. Now, it should be noted, genius Danny Ainge, his last 22 picks, he doesn't have an All-Star, but he did, to his credit, draft Avery Bradley. Oh, wait. He's now out of town because you got Gordon Hayward. So, generally, this is the way it works with geniuses. Like, something has to land. Like Elon Musk does, like, Tesla and rockets. I'm like, check, genius. And then Steve Jobs did the iPad and the iPhone and the iPod, and I'm like, check, check, check. He's a genius. Danny Ainge is down to, hey,
oh my!
Al Horford on a good night can really play.
You do realize that on one hand you're saying that you want them to act now and win now.
Yes.
And then on the other hand you're saying you want them to draft a point guard. You really think, no matter how great this point guard is, that 1 year out of college is going to be the star and the difference to get things done now?
No, but in
Clearly
1 year,
so.
Listen to the Isaiah Thomas contract. If he signed, now remember, Isaiah Thomas got drafted late. Okay, so Isaiah's a guy that really hasn't made what you call huge NBA money. There are some NBA guys, like Kevin Durant, who's made money. They'll take a little bit of a pay cut. Chris Bosh to Miami says, I want to win rings. Isaiah Thomas is now playing at an all-star level, but he is never, this is his big contract. He's not taking a pay cut. So if you sign him to the deal, you will be paying him in the last 4 years of the deal $34 million, $36, $38, and $41 million and by the way, he'll be 35 and still 5'8.5" by the end of that contract.
He could grow. So you're knocking Danny Ainge for something that hasn't even happened yet because one player tweets that he wants the brake trucks to come out. I just want to make sure I'm getting that straight.
All I'm saying is that he's been given this Messiah label, and there's a limitation on how long, hey, we're second best in the East. You got to recalibrate your genius level.
Oh.
That's not much of a bragging point anymore, like it was in the 70s, 80s, 90s. Like, one of these draft picks, I don't think Jaylen Brown's ever going to be a star. He can dunk, can't shoot. Jason Tatum looks good, but it's summer league. I'm going to slow down. At some point, getting basically swept by the Cavs does not equal genius. That's all I'm saying. I just like a little more from my geniuses.
Who's a genius then?
Daryl Morey, have you seen the story today out of Houston? So he gets James Harden. People think he doesn't have cap room. He gets Chris Paul. According to a report today, I'm going to read you this. This is what a genius does.
Okay.
He did go to MIT.
That's where the geniuses are bred.
Mostly, yeah. Carmelo Anthony says he's confident he'll end up with the Rockets. Now, I don't love Carmelo, but in this team, at this point in the West, a 6'9" offensive wing, this would be Carmelo's last stand. I'd be okay with it. Nobody thought they had any wiggle room here. They're going to get Chris Paul, Carmelo Anthony. What? That's pretty good. That's what a genius does. A genius doesn't say, hey, we're second best in the East.
You can't give that voice to Danny Ainge, but I never thought I would hear the day or see the day come when you would say a guy getting Carmelo Anthony makes him a genius. I don't know what the world's come to.
I think Carmelo's just a little whipping cream on the cake of genius. It's just a little topping.
Icing.
It's a little icing. It's just I don't love Carmelo, but in Houston I'm like, yeah, he'd make Durant work on the defensive end. I can live with Carmelo. All right, we're in Miami. It's Marlins Park. A-Rod's coming up. Dion Waiters coming up. It is a Monday with Christine Leahy. This is The Herd. This is The Herd. Wherever you may be and however you may be listening, live in Miami, iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, and FS1. Christine Leahy is joining me. Dion Waiters of the Miami Heat is joining us as well. Before we get to Dion, I want to start the hour by talking about something that is really good for him and just happened. He signed a new contract.
Pitbull just performed?
Pitbull performed. That was good for all of us.
Okay.
That was good for all of us. So Dion just signed a big contract, and Terrence Knight, a former NFL guy, came out and ripped the NFL. And he said, the NFL makes $1 billion a year, billions and billions. Why don't we get paid like NBA guys? Here's all you need to know about the NFL. All the NFL is, it's a bunch of frustrated basketball players, and it's always been that way. NBA guys get guaranteed contracts. NBA guys make money with their shoes. NBA guys can take a game off occasionally, and the fans are okay with it. NBA guys don't have concussion issues. And NBA guys, if they're really powerful, can get rid of the coach, and NFL guys can't. That is the reality. Odell Beckham makes less than Tim Hardaway. Remember, football is a choreography sport. On offense, if anybody moves too quickly, it's a penalty flag. Basketball is about individualism. It is about artistry. The logo of the NBA is a former player. The logo of football is not. So football players, we all have choices. If you choose football, it is not as individualistic as the NBA is. And with that, we welcome in a young man who just signed a 4-year deal north of 50 large, Dion Waiters. And by the way, you didn't roll in with a big group. Yeah. You got tennis shoes on. You got a golf shirt.
It's not a golf shirt.
It's a nice. It's very nice. But the point being,
golf shirt.
Are you going to do anything different now?
Nah, just stay the same. I'm just humble and blessed. Be able to take care of my family, make sure my son never have a worry in the world, and just continue to try to motivate the youth, especially coming from where I come from. And don't think money should change you. I think it can help you.
Let me start with this. Your college coach was Jim Boeheim,
right?
Who is a little crazy.
No, he's crazy.
He is crazy. He swears a lot, not on the air. But I like him because he's raw and he's authentic.
Right.
Now, let's just go back to your college days with Boeheim, who's coached the Team USA with Coach K. Right. He's one of the few guys that's ever been a great college coach and worked with NBA guys. It doesn't work that way. When you were in college, first of all, did he tell you when you go to Syracuse, Dion, come up here, it never snows, I promise you? What was the sales pitch like?
No, he just told me, come up here, it's nice, it's cold. He said I'm from Philadelphia, so I could take it. I'm a tough guy. So the transition was easy, but the snow is different, man. It's a different type of animal. Like, they say it'd be 3 or 4 inches. You might get 13 or 15 inches. Like,
one
it's
day.
Crazy. One day.
So what was Boeheim's a big personality. He can be loud and intimidating. And what was
what's so crazy? Like, off the court, he's so cool, mellow, laid back. And on the court, he's so feisty. He's different. Oh, man, like.
Did you ever get did you ever argue with him?
Multiple times. Like, but I think he loved arguing because I never backed down. Like, I took it as a challenge, though, so I would always say something back or, like, bark back.
What was your biggest argument?
You wanted to shoot more.
That. I wanted to shoot more. I wanted to start. There's a lot of things that, played the part. But at the end of the day, he helped me. He helped me become a man. And he just told me, be patient, and everything going to work in my favor. And I just listened to him, and look at me now.
So you go from Boeheim, and then now, I mean, you've played with a LeBron, a Kevin Durant. You're now in Miami with Pat Riley. Now, Pat Riley may be 70 years old, but do you ever just go to Pat Riley and want to talk hoops?
Nah, when I go to Coach Pat, it's more about life. It's more about life with me now. Like, I know I'm 25, but I'm an old soul, man. And I just care so much about the future and, like doing things for my son and making sure, like, my family is going to be set up long term. So that's the guy who I go to and ask him questions about the things he did growing up. It's bigger than basketball with me. And with Coach Pat, he done seen it all. He done been around it. He done won championships. He's coached Magic. He's seen everything. He's been a player, a broadcaster, a coach, a president. I mean, he has done it all. So it made the transition easy for me wanting to come back. So okay, let's talk LeBron and Durant. You played with both. I mean, LeBron's kind of he's a force of nature. I mean, there's just not a lot of 6'9" guys with 4% body fat. The first time you take my audience back, the first time you played with LeBron and just were in transition, I mean, what was your reaction? It was amazing because that was a guy who I looked up to growing up. That was one of my favorite players. And just to be able to be around him, to see that professionalism on an everyday basis, night in, night out, every day, constantly, it helped me. I was like a sponge, just soaking everything up. And he took me in. We worked out together. We played, we went out to eat, things like that. I was over his house, and I just really bought into it. And are you a better player today having played with him? Of course, no question. I'm a better person too, as far as just me taking care of my body and just really trying to be a professional. So when you came into the league, you were the typical 21-year-old guy. You go to Burger King, you knock down a shake. Yeah, exactly. Just not knowing it all. Just thinking you know everything, but you really have no idea on what it takes to be great in this league, and to have a person like that to show you the ropes and give you tips on it, and just being fortunate to be in that position. And then going to Oklahoma City with Russ and KD. Okay, now that's ridiculous. So you go and you're dealing with so you go from the best player in the world to maybe 2 and 3. Right. So give me the personality of LeBron and the personality of Durant. How are they different? LeBron is so locked into the game. He's basketball is everything to him. He know plays. He know everybody plays things like that. He's a teacher's teacher. He's a coach on the floor. He's a teacher on the floor, and that's what helped me. KD is more of a lead by example guy. Like, LeBron was a vocal leader. Kev was more of a lead by example, but I was closer to Kev because Kev understood me. We came from the same areas and the same places, so I bought into it more with Kev because he really took me under the wing when I first got there. Before I even stepped off the plane when I got traded to Oklahoma City, he the first guy that texted me. Like, welcome, Lord, bro. Glad you're here. By the way, Christine really likes Westbrook. Yeah, I was going to ask about Westbrook. Oh, no, that's big bro, too. We text every day. Good right teammate, now. Right? He texts you still? He's a great teammate. Why doesn't he pass more when you're open? You know, he plays a certain way. He passed me the ball.
She thinks I'm just being a jerk.
Maybe.
It's not that I don't admire.
No, he's saying he's a great teammate.
I'm not. I know he's a good human.
He's actually really a great person, man. I be telling everybody that because you know he got this, you know,
thing, a little swag
this
to him.
thing. Yeah, everybody got that. Like me, like
I don't.
It can rub the wrong way sometimes, but. Russ,
you don't have swag.
I don't have a swag. I don't have any of that. That's the problem.
That's the only thing with Russ. I think because he just plays so ferocious and he always looked like he angry, but off the court, man, he's so cool and laid back. It's like it's two different people.
Okay, did you feel like when that Kevin Durant did not get along with him on the court, but he did off the court? There's a difference in their relationship.
I just think it was. I don't know. Honestly, it's just. You know, you got to ask KD that. I don't know what it was. I'm not getting into that.
Okay, did you watch this weekend? The audience is losing their patience with me because I said, listen, Lonzo Ball has a style.
Right.
It's something. Right. I may not be into the dad, but I'm talking son.
The kid is selling out summer league games, man.
Selling out summer league games. Did you watch him play?
League. I watched it.
What did you think?
Listen, he's going to be good, man. He's going to be good. You get the right time around him. He passed the hell out the ball. He's a passer first. So, you know, I think he just got to keep working.
Do you ever notice, like when you were in the NBA, obviously about half the draft picks after about the 7th pick don't work. Like they come into the league, like Jimmer Fredette lasted about an hour. Do you know, like I watched Lonzo and my takeaway is he is so long. And I'm like so fluid. I'm like, that dude's going to work.
What's so crazy? Like this draft class is really good.
Really good.
Really good. Went through. It's some guys that went 20. That's had like 22 and 10. The kid Colin from Atlanta. Like,
yep.
It's some. This is an interesting draft class, man. I got to admit.
Lonzo Ball's going to be amazing. I just think. You know what I like? I like. He's got a style, and not everybody has a style. Iverson had a style. Kareem had the hook.
What's his style, you think?
I think his style is sort of cool and fluid and communal. Like, man, he's like a.
It's a lot of pressure too.
Oh, what's pressure?
His father.
Nah, he's out. Yeah, he's out there. But the kid, I like.
Yeah. I mean, as a kid, I like him too. Like, I mean, I just think he's used to how his father is, and it don't bother him. But coming into the league like that, when you have a guy who's, you know, saying some of the craziest things, it could put a target on your back for guys who going to want to destroy him night in and night out just because.
By the way, you said you'd still text Russell Westbrook. Do you still text LeBron James?
I haven't talked to LeBron, but
no, why?
It's all love.
Oh,
no, it doesn't sound like love to me.
Westbrook's the guy who's talking to him still.
It's
LeBron,
definitely love. It just
sounds like controversy.
No, it ain't no controversy.
It feels like it to me.
I know more. It's not.
So I know more. Well, it was.
Do me a favor. Text him right now on the show.
Text him?
I'll buy you lunch. Say hey.
Oh, text him. Listen.
Hey, Bron, what's up? It's me.
I respect LeBron, man. I respect LeBron to the fullest. It's none of that. It's just that, like I said, I was just closer with KD and Russ.
That's okay.
It sounds like you want to be in basketball operations when you're done playing.
Nah, you know, I just want to chill, relax.
You don't?
Nah, I want to watch my kids, see what they want to do when they grow up.
Okay.
All right, Dion Waiters. Now, it's Miami, and now you got a big, huge contract.
Yeah.
Like today, do you go, because you have a new contract, do you get maybe a second piece of cheesecake or something?
Man, I'm on a diet right now.
Oh.
Like, I'm actually, like, juicing.
Well, like strawberry
juice.
juice.
Yeah, strawberry, things like that.
Ugh.
So,
you're not are you eating
it's
any?
good for you.
What kind? Just juice? No
just
meat?
Just juicing.
No,
I eat fish. Okay. I stopped eating meat. I cut meats out.
Oh, I wouldn't do that. Steak. You'll live to be 80 if you eat steak every day. I had 3 pieces last.
You know how big I get.
Oh, I had a piece of steak last night.
You sure did.
I feel huge right now. I love steak. And it was midnight, and I was knocking it down.
Yeah.
I went to bed an hour later. That's great. That's great for the system. Dion Waiters, it's absolutely great. By the way, there was a report you were going to sign with the Lakers 1 year, $17 million. Be honest. Were you close to that?
I was thinking about it.
What do you mean?
Say that again.
What do you mean you were thinking about it?
I was thinking. At the end of the day, man, you got to do what's best for you and your family. I knew I wanted to be in Miami, but at that time, it's just I had to wait, and you know you get a little anxious. So you got to sit back and think and really talk to your family on what's the best decision for you and your kids, because that's what it's about. And I'm just glad we got it done. So I don't even got to worry about that. We don't got to talk about that. I'm in Miami for the next, hopefully forever.
All right, go have your kale juice. Go have your juice, would you?
Yeah, for sure.
Dion Waiters. Good having him in the herd. Welcome back in Miami, Marlins Park. Lonzo Ball debut this weekend. He plays again tonight. So between the home run derby and Lonzo Ball, I will be all over that. A lot of people are, kind of poking fun at the NBA Summer League, but I'll say this. The NBA does one thing really, really well. They develop stars, and basketball's always had sort of a worshiping culture, and I think Lonzo Ball is going to be a remarkably big player in this league. I don't know if he's ever going to be Steph Curry, the player. I don't know if he could be, or Magic Johnson. But I think if he's a good player combined with the Lakers brand, he's going to be a real big star in this league. It's the same thing. Brett Favre was going to be really, really good anywhere. You put him with the Packers, he's a legend. Networks like to put the Packers on. It's the same with Tony Romo. Was a good quarterback. You put him on the Cowboys. We talk Tony Romo more than any quarterback the last 10 years who wasn't regularly in the playoffs. I mean, we talk Manning, we talk Brady, we talk Favre, and I swear to God, we talk Tony Romo the last 10 years I've been a national host. So when you can be good, Tony Romo was really good. I think Lonzo Ball is going to be really good, and you put him with a Michigan football, Kentucky basketball, Laker basketball, Dallas Cowboy, Green Bay Packer, you get an explosion. And I think that's what you're going to get. Now, at the opposite end of the spectrum are the incredibly, laughably, idiotically dysfunctional New York Knicks. David Griffin was the general manager. He pulled his name out of the Knicks general manager search. Why? Because Griffin was told, okay, you could be the general manager, but you're not going to have full authority on those things called basketball decisions, and you can't build your own staff. And he said, I'm going to be Seacrest out. So he backed out. So Phil Jackson had a picture this week on Twitter at his Montana house, feet up, enjoying the good life. Phil Jackson is now gone, and yet the Knicks are still clueless. They are paying Tim Hardaway, decent player, locked in $71 million, proving Phil Jackson is just the latest guy to go to the Knicks and be somewhat corrupted. Donnie Walsh was considered at Indiana a basketball architect, went to New York, and it failed. Isaiah Thomas has a tremendous record of drafting NBA players, goes to New York, leaves, not good. Phil Jackson, 11 rings, goes to New York, and now he's just terrible. This is about the owner being James Dolan. We know that Isaiah Thomas has had basketball success. We know Phil Jackson has. We know Donnie Walsh has. What the Knicks have become is what the Raiders became in the last 7 to 8 to 10 years of Al Davis's life, where they were corrupted. And now the Raiders, since the passing of Al Davis, who in his prime was a maverick and a revolutionary, but he was not at the end. He was holding the organization hostage. And in the end, Randy Moss was great in Minnesota and great in New England. In between, bad in Oakland. Carson Palmer, really good in Cincinnati, really nice in Arizona. In between, bad in Oakland, 4-11. Mike Shanahan leaving started it. This happens all the time. Mike D'Antoni, coach of the year in Phoenix, coach of the year now in Houston. But he goes to the Knicks, and, it turned virtually overnight. Bad ownership corrupts an organization much faster than a coach and much faster than players. This is what I've said about the city of New York. I will say it again, and I believe it. New York right now has more bad ownership than any place in the country. In the NFL right now, you have 3 ownership groups I'm dubious of. The Jets, Cleveland, and the Bears. Jacksonville's not good, but I like their owner. Jets, Cleveland, Bears. In the NBA, the worst-run franchise is the Knicks. NHL, Islanders are a mess. And in Major League Baseball, the Mets still haven't paid the $60 million loan they took from the sport because they got caught in a Ponzi scheme. New York, New York, New York, New York. NFL, NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball. When you have an ownership group who's more worried about attention than wins, that doesn't do their homework, maybe got dad's money, not fully vested, fans are trapped. And I feel right now New York is that city in America where fans are a little bit trapped. With TrueCar, you can find out what other people in your area paid for the same car you're looking for. $3,000 off MSRP. New or used does not matter. Check out TrueCar. Here's Christine with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
Jamal Crawford is reportedly set to sign a deal for 2 years, $8.9 million with Minnesota. Not exactly where I thought he would or should wind up. This is a guy, he's so good in the locker room. He's a really good vet, and he's played all over the place, but hasn't won a championship. So I really wanted to see him go to the Cavs or to a team that had a chance. Timberwolves definitely on the way up. They can use a guy like him, but this isn't going to get him his ring.
No, he can hit threes. It's weird. I really like Minnesota, but they don't match up from a math equation. They don't match up still with like a Golden State or a Houston when it comes to hitting threes. So I think they need a guy like him. Jeff Teague was good in Atlanta. He went to Indy and it didn't work. And so I'm kind of waiting for him to reboot a little bit and see how it works.
Well, I think this basically was for him. He wanted to go to the Cavs. Cavs didn't offer him anything. So he's going to get a little bit of money. He gets $8.9 million, and he goes to Minnesota. Now they have Jimmy Butler. They have a lot of younger guys. So Jamal can be that veteran, older voice.
Sure.
I'm sure he probably got frustrated with a lot of things with the Clippers and felt like they weren't using him to the best of his ability.
Right.
And now in Minnesota, at least he can do that. If he doesn't get a ring, at least have a comfortable and good situation.
Yeah.
I would love to see him get a ring, though. Those kind of guys, I hate when they play for so many teams and just never win.
Yeah.
Also, Tom Brady is posing now with the Stanley Cup. He has a picture with the Stanley Cup. Some people are saying, why? But I think he should pose with every single trophy he possibly can. The Lombardi, 5 of them. Now the Stanley Cup 1. The Commissioner's Trophy. Maybe we can get Rob Manfred back on, and maybe he can bring that out so Tom Brady can have one of those. Larry O'Brien, he's from San Francisco, so why not go take a picture with the Warriors?
Tom Brady is not so subtly enjoying life more in the last 2 years.
Good for him. Why not?
You can feel him segueing out of...
You're going to go there.
Yeah, I can feel him sort of segueing, building his brand post-football. I honestly, 2 years max, I honestly think this year, I think this is his last year. I think once he won the Super Bowl, greatest of all time, I think he's segueing out of the sport after the year.
Didn't you think that he was done after last year?
I did.
And
well,
Jimmy
1 year off.
Well, I think he's got a few more years than that. And finally, Colin, you've talked about airplanes a lot and private planes. How would you decide who you would let trust fly the plane if it was private, a small one?
Somebody with 20 years experience flying.
Okay, what about Mookie Betts? Would you let him fly the plane for you?
He's a baseball player.
Yeah.
He's young.
Yeah.
No, I don't want a young pilot.
Well, Chris Archer and Mookie Betts took a plane here with Mookie Betts flying the plane. How do you feel about that?
Well, one time I was going to Nantucket, and the only way to get there in short time, my wife and I took Cape Air.
Uh-huh.
And I was okay with it because I've been on small planes. My wife doesn't like to fly. And the pilot was 14 looking. And my wife was a nervous wreck for that 40-minute flight. So I'm okay with it, but I generally like my pilot to have gray hair.
Yeah, I would agree with you. When they look kind of young, I'm nervous. How many times have you been in real crisis up in the air? And if that were to happen to us, what would you do? The crazy thing is, so Betts and Archer were playing against each other with the Red Sox and Rays when they played, and Betts led off the game with a home run off of Archer. So he said he was still really mad, but he's going to hold it in because Betts was flying the plane. So you don't want to really take out your aggression at that point.
Yeah.
As you're both coming out here to the All Star game. But yeah, I'm with you. I like the older the look, and that's not right because there can be a lot of.
Well, it's the same with a surgeon. Like you want somebody that looks like they've been around the block.
Yeah, who have been in some turbulence.
There you go.
How to handle the turbulence.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Christine with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Line News.
So whenever I stop by Miami, and this is one of my favorite cities in the country, one of the things I think about is obviously the Aqua Beaches. One of the other things I always think about is the Miami Hurricanes, the U. And I have always really liked college football. I love the NFL, but I really like college football. And I was talking to a researcher at Fox Sports last night, and we were agreeing that we couldn't remember the last time that in college football virtually every power program is going to be 10-plus wins. Michigan, Penn State, Ohio State, Alabama, USC, Clemson, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Florida State, Washington, Auburn should all be 10-plus wins. And it generally doesn't work that way. You know, USC's got a new coach. Bama's been down. Oklahoma. It doesn't work that way. And we were trying to get Mark Richt, coach of Miami, on our set tomorrow, and I'm still crossing my fingers. Because the only team, I think, college football, and the only thing it will miss this year is a great Miami team. And for a lot of you that are in your 20s, it's been a long time since Miami was great. They've lost 6 of their last 7 bowl games. It's been 14 years since Miami had double-digit wins. And it's been longer since Miami had that hurricane flavor of the U. When you watch college football, it always feels collegiate. It's small town. It's often rural. That USC, and specifically Miami, have always felt like somewhere between college and the pros. And I really believe what I'm about to say. In the history of college football, the greatest teams ever were the Miami Hurricanes at their best. Alabama may win more national titles, but Alabama's never had world-class NFL-level quarterbacks. The SEC last couple of years hasn't provided a great deal of an obstacle, except Ole Miss, and they were cheating. Alabama players don't go to the NFL and dominate the NFL the way the Miami Hurricanes players did. And college football misses Miami. There was a vibe and a swagger and a uniqueness to Miami, and I always think about the Hurricanes when I'm here. In fact, I would argue there has never been in American sports and never will be a fan base like the Miami Hurricanes. Now, we all know there's a lot of bandwagon Cowboy fans that the Cowboys get good, and all of a sudden their fan base expands by like 30, 40, 50%. We all know with Notre Dame or the Yankees, they've got a lot of fans, but when they get really good, their fan base expands by 30, 40, 50%. Oh, it's different with the Miami Hurricanes. Literally, when they're good, their fan base expands by 99%. They're virtually all bandwagon fans because they live in a city which is an event town where there's pro sports and the best beaches in America, an international flair, shopping restaurants, a million things to do. The Keys down south, golf courses up north. So the Miami Hurricanes are basically almost solely a bandwagon fan base through and through. They're almost like a trend that falls upon the scene and then disappears like a year later. Remember back in the 80s, 90s, the pet rock? You ever see a trend come into fashion and then leaves in a year? That's literally like Miami Hurricane football. It was a party. It was a rock tour. It was almost all the bandwagon fan base, which I've never cared about. I mean, you don't get bonus points for going to games for 20 years if it's boring and they're a bad team. But I miss them. I hope Mark Richt eventually comes on our show. I know he's a busy guy. And here's what I love. That Alabama this year is not dominating recruiting. Is that when Mark Richt got fired at Georgia, I said it was a big mistake, that he was a decent man who won 10 games a year in the toughest football conference in America. Do you know where Miami right now, with 19 recruits already verbally committed, stands in recruiting? Number 1 in the country. That is awesome. Nothing against Bama, nothing against Oklahoma, nothing against the Big Ten. There's a lot of duplication in college football. There is nothing that looks like, feels like, lives and breathes like the Miami Hurricanes. They're somewhere between college and pro football, and man, I want them back. And whenever I come to Miami, outside of the aqua water and the beaches, it's the second thing I think of. Alex Rodriguez and Kevin Burkhardt are around the corner. It's very interesting. Alex grew up. This used to be, I think, the stadium area we're in now. Wasn't this the old like Miami Hurricanes played in this or something years ago, John? The Orange Bowl, right? So my understanding is A-Rod as a kid would sneak into the stadium, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, so this is where A-Rod grew up, where he was a high school baseball star. I remember watching video of him, reading a story in Sports Illustrated. And this is where it all started for A-Rod. We went to dinner with him last night, so he'll be on the other end as we join you again in Miami at Marlins Park. A-Rod around the corner. Welcome back. Marlins Park in Miami. Isn't that beautiful?
Don't you like this song? You know what this is?
What is it?
I'm in Miami. Bleep.
So's Alex Rodriguez and Kevin Burkhardt. By the way, they're sitting. Giancarlo Stanton hit a ball 490 feet. And there's a little built-in plaque right behind these guys. And from home plate, it's about a $20 Uber ride to get to that home run ball. And so it's amazing. Right next to the wall, the guy, he almost hit it out of the stadium. So Alex Rodriguez and Kevin Burkhardt are joining us. Okay, can you hear me? I'll start with this. You got to give A-Rod needs. I'll start with.
I can't hear.
He's got some hearing issues. Not naturally, but apparently. Is your IFB thing?
Yeah, I can't hear anything, but.
All right, well, maybe just yell.
So here's the thing. You hang out with A-Rod, so
yes.
You know what a sports junkie he is. He is college football guy, NFL guy. You've been like this since the first time I met you. Why didn't you play football?
Well, I always wanted to play football. I played in high school. I was a quarterback. But, I mean, when I started talking to my mother and my brother and my sister, they started kind of pushing me more towards baseball. And there's nothing like game day in football. But for me, baseball, being a Miami kid, having Dominican blood, baseball was a natural for me.
So can I share something about that? So I'll give you a little something. So we do our baseball show, the Whip Round, weeknights, and Alex is obviously a part of that, but not all the time. So there was a week where you came in, you did a couple shows, but I think Friday you were off, but we were still doing the show. So Alex just comes in to watch the games with us. Like, what are you doing here? You're not on the show. I just want to come watch the games.
That's what I have a life.
That's true. But he loves baseball.
Friday night I go see KB when I'm not working. That's pretty sad.
But you were a kid sneaking into games here when you were a kid.
Yeah.
And were you a Hurricanes fan? I imagine a huge Hurricanes fan.
I was an enormous Hurricane fan and a huge Jimmy Johnson fan. And they built a dynasty here. And they did it by drafting all these young, talented individuals. And I used to take, Colin, 3 buses and a train to get to the Orange Bowl. They had the 1 o'clock games here, and then I would sneak over. The ushers were a little bit older and a little bit slower, and I would just jump over, and I got to watch free football because I couldn't afford the ticket.
Why can't the Marlins do the same?
Well, I think it's interesting. If you look at the Marlins, right, if you were to build out a business plan around it, I think you have to be very specific because although Miami's in the United States, is a very complicated market. And what worked so well for us with Miami and Jimmy Johnson was that he strictly drafted Florida kids. And he didn't really leave call it a 400-mile radius. And he had enormous success. I think the same is true for the Marlins. If you think about drafting players that are from Florida, from Miami, from Tampa, I've been playing high leverage games under the lights at the Boys and Girls Club in front of hundreds of people since I was 9 years old. So that's important. The other thing is, if you think about free agency, you're not going to get a discount from a California kid like a Stanton. You're not going to get a discount from a kid from Seattle because he's going to think Miami's probably more of a detriment than an asset. But if you think about Eric Hosmer and Manny Machado, you may be able to get Manny Machado and say, hey, I'm going to pay you not $200 like Baltimore, but I'll pay you $160 to come to Miami. With 7 years, the tax breaks that you'll take, is it worth it to come to Miami for that discount? And I think in a lot of cases, the answer will be yes.
Listen, we know that Theo, Kevin, what they did with the Cubs. The Cubs this year, there's great debate in baseball that the Cubs were amazing last year, but they don't have the leadoff guy. They are struggling on the mound. Is it possible the Cubs were a good team with good personnel that got absurdly hot, and the Cubs story is going to go back to being average? Is that possible?
I think it's definitely possible, don't you? I mean, when we looked at it last year, because it was storybook, because they were so great, and they had some moments of adversity in the playoffs, but they responded. But you got to remember, during the regular season, they dominated, and all these young guys were thinking, hey, this is set up to be a 10-year thing. But sometimes it's hard. You lose a piece or two, like they did. big guys in the clubhouse, too, and that's hard to recover from, right?
It really is, and what people don't understand, I talked about it in spring training when we did our preseason schedule. The hangover effect, it's unbelievable. It is real and it's tangible. What do I mean by that? You playing for Chicago Cubs, you haven't won in 108 years. Your emails, your texts, they're blowing up around the clock 24/7. There's opportunity everywhere to make money, to do commercials, to do appearances. We call it the banquet tour. It's hard to focus on the next season when you're doing so many things to celebrate the prior year.
You know, A-Rod, you're iconic in America. Do you ever... Part of the reason do you still maintain such a life here is that you can hide a little in Miami? Because if you go, I mean, when you were in New York, I mean, good Lord, you're in the tabloids every day. It's fun when you're in your 30s. But like for you now, what is the Miami experience like for you on a day-to-day basis?
Miami's great for me. I have my 2 daughters, Natasha and Ella. They're 12 and 9. They go to school here in Coconut Grove. And Miami's a place for me that I'm indebted to because it's where I learned how to play baseball at the Boys and Girls Club. Is now where I come back tomorrow, and Rob Manfred and I, Commissioner Manfred, we're throwing out the first pitch. We're hosting over 1,000 kids at the Boys and Girls Club. And, you know, Colin, I'm at a point in my life that is all about paying it forward. I played for over 22 years. I experienced the good, the bad, and the ugly. I own the home runs as I own the strikeouts. And I think I have an opportunity and a platform to be able to help those that come after me to be able to say, hey, here are the mistakes I made. Just try to stay away from them and really just help them move, reach their goals.
You know, the home runs are through the roof. It's funny. Baseball, though, it's funny. When scoring goes up in football, hockey, or basketball, we're like, yeah. Home runs are through the roof in baseball. We're like, oh, okay, what's going on with the baseballs? It's like, can you people just enjoy the game? I've gone to 2 Dodger games. I've seen 6 home runs. Votto hit 1. Cody hit a couple. I mean, to me, it feels like we're getting home runs because the strikeout analytically is no longer bad. It's better than a ground ball. That's why I think we're getting home runs. Why are we, Kevin? Start with you.
I think it's a number of reasons. I mean, I think that. I think the thing about the home runs to me is when you see some of these guys who are not home run hitters and they're hitting second deck, third deck, it's a little fishy. I mean, you have to think that maybe the balls are a little bit tighter, but it's not just that. The bats are different. You know this. The bats are so much more compact now, and they offer so much spring. I think and I think your point is about the strikeouts. I mean, when you play, if you struck out, it's a bad thing.
Bad thing. Humiliating.
Awful. Nobody cares.
It's not. By the way, the ground ball now, I love Derek Jeter, but the ground ball at the end of his career was a double play ball. The ground ball now is what you don't want to do, right? So everybody's swinging up. That's what I see.
Look, Colin, anytime, whether it's business or sports, that you swing the pendulum, it goes way too far to the right, and people start going crazy. Now, we don't hire people that have anything to do with baseball. We only hire, Harvard, Yale, and Columbia business school guys that only know math. That's a problem. And here's what I mean by that. The last time a team won a world championship and led the league in strikeouts were the 1938 Yankees. That's a problem. The fact that you strike out 200 times a year and people celebrate it, and you can hit 220 and people celebrate it, that's a mistake. In order to win in October, you need to put the ball in play. That's what Kansas City did to the Mets. They drove them crazy. You need to get a guy in from third with less than 2 outs. And a number of things you need to do to put the game in motion. I think long-term is a big problem. You have to put the ball in play.
Aaron Judge is having a ridiculous first half. If you look at the history of baseball, he's not going to duplicate that. I remember when I was a kid, there was guys won't remember this name, Alvin Davis played for the Mariners.
Yeah.
You remember Alvin Davis?
Absolutely.
He broke into the league.
Number 21.
Yeah. Wow. You are a savant. So Alvin was a guy who broke into the league, fastball hitter. Nobody knew him. They threw him fastballs, bang, bang, bang. Second, third year, he drops off. I look at Aaron Judge and I go, okay, 6'7", he's got a big strike zone. Can he maintain this?
I don't think it's fair to maintain 30 home runs because that means he'll hit 60 or 70 home runs every year. But here's a guy, Colin, that I'm so excited for. For the first time in a long time, we have a LeBron James type of personality and size that can transcend sport. Here's a guy who's 6'7", 275 pounds, 9% body fat, 32-inch vertical. The guy bench presses 400 pounds, squats 500 pounds. And he's an amazing figure. I mean, and for the next generation to say, well, there's a guy that could be a tight end and an all-pro, and he chose baseball. Why can't I? And hopefully the kids are taking notes of Aaron Judge.
You know what's crazy about him? He was living in Times Square.
Yeah.
Remember, last time we talked, he was living at Times Square. Of all the places you could live in New York, that would be about the last one. But I guess if you're 6'7" and that big, you could fit in, and no one's going to question you in Times Square.
You know, baseball has, Kevin, has an uptick in participation. And I'm wondering, like youth baseball now, I just had Manfred on, is going up and football's going down. You broadcast both.
Yep.
Do you sense when you're out in America that there is some NFL football fear and there is a rejuvenation of what's perceived as a safer sport, baseball?
I don't think that currently there's a fear for the NFL, but I know for a fact that there's a fear of the younger levels. Just from people that I talk to, that I deal with, whether it's with teams or just friends, they aren't letting their kids play football. You know, they're letting their kids play flag, but they aren't letting their kids play tackle football. Whether that comes to fruition where it actually hurts the league, I don't know, 5 years, 10 years down the road, maybe. But I think there is absolutely a feel that if there's going to be a choice, let the kid play baseball year-round. I don't think there's any question about it.
Alex, what kind of quarterback were you? Little Russell Wilson?
If you asked me, it was a long time ago and you didn't watch me, I'll say I was pretty good.
Were you?
It's funny. My senior year, the three top quarterbacks were Danny Cannell, Brian Greasy, and I was third or second, somewhere in there. And they went on to have pretty good, careers at Michigan and Florida State, and of course played in the NFL. I do want to address what Kevin just talked about as far as kind of when I was a 9-year-old boy, we were the number one domestic sport, right, in America.
Right.
And somewhere along the lines, we kind of lost the grip to that. But I do think for the first time, we have an opening. And I'm really excited about that. Like Kevin, I have two girls, not two boys. I would have a really hard time letting my boy play football, so I would let him play baseball.
You know, the other thing and this is not a knock on football, but football is a very unique sport. You got to play basketball early, and you got to play baseball and golf early. You got to figure out how to hit. You got to take a lot of ground balls. Football's a weird sport where you can join. Like there's a bunch of guys who, like in the NFL, that didn't play until they were juniors and
there's more and more of that.
A lot, and that's where I think football should go. Is listen, we're not going to tackle till about 15 years old. Brain's developing. We'll get out of that space. All right, Alex Rodriguez and Kevin Burkhardt. Who's going to win the home run derby? 30 seconds. Who's winning tonight?
I'm going to go a little wild card. Mike Moustakas picking the Moose.
Oh, I love it.
Going Moose. Wild card.
I'm going to go big. I'm a Yankees. I'm going to go with Aaron Judge. It'll be a great story for baseball.
Aren't you doing something kind of cool in the outfield?
We can't tell that.
No, we can.
We'll keep that a secret.
9 seconds left.
Fine, we'll keep it a secret.
We're running out of time.
Supposed to be
Saved
good.
It's not a secret. I'm not breaking rules.
Thanks, guys. It's the Herd.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Christine.
This is The Herd, wherever you may be and however you may be listening, live in Miami. iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, and FS1. Alex Rodriguez, Kevin Burkhardt just stopped by. The Commissioner, Rob Manfred, was in the house. Joe Buck, John Smoltz. Later this hour, Dion Waiters stopped by. I have always been fascinated by aerial shots.
You have.
One of my favorite shows, Christine Leahy, is Aerial America on the Smithsonian Channel.
And we have our very own right now.
We paid a pilot today to hover and fly over beautiful South Florida and give us shots.
Just for us.
And he is moving the camera right now. And I believe he is pointing that west. Oh, this is the pilot. There's the pilot right there. I don't know the pilot's name, although he looks like a Gunther.
He's waving.
Hi, Gunther.
Thumbs up if your name is Gunther.
Oh, good pilot.
His name is Gunther.
Gunther.
Confirmed.
Look at him. Doesn't he look courageous? He's got a mustache and gray hair. He looks like a courageous man.
How badly do you want to get on that plane with him?
I got to tell you something. I am fascinated by aerial shots. And, okay, now I'm seeing the city. That's okay. There's the stadium right there, which I've been told is in Little Havana, that little section of Miami. And then you see the downtown area.
Is that water?
Yeah. He's going to do a U-ey in this plane, Gunther is, and circle back. I got to tell you something. I could honestly watch this all day, but I have a show to do, so I don't want to.
I sure know that you could. Is this what that show is like? You just look
Aerial America is a show on the Smithsonian Channel where they'll pick a state and they'll do Vermont, and the show's 2 minutes, and then they'll do California, it's 4 hours. But they'll go to Massachusetts, and they'll tell you the history of Massachusetts from like the 1800s, and it's really fascinating.
So it's not about planes, it's about learning about different
this is very educational. If you take the Gunther shot of the city of Miami, it's very educational.
Well, I wonder if maybe Gunther...
Okay, there's a bank right there, and there's a condo, and there's a big freeway system, and a park.
Freeway system?
This is also very educational.
Riveting.
And there's aqua water and a port somewhere in there.
You're really all about the aqua water here. Have you tested it out?
I will later today.
You're going to go?
I'm going to go for a humid walk on the beach.
Okay.
Some people like romantic walks on the beach. I like humid walks on the beach.
Of course you do.
So has anybody noticed this? Has anybody noticed the NBA offseason? I was thinking about this morning.
Mm-hmm.
It's been just like the regular season. So in the NBA regular season, we had two teams, Golden State and Cleveland, that pretty much had sort of definitively pulled away from their conference. And even though neither team did, Cleveland or Golden State did this much this offseason, they're still definitively the top two teams. During the regular season, we spent a lot of time talking about stars. One of them was in Oklahoma City, Russell Westbrook. The other was in Houston, James Harden. This offseason, last couple of weeks, we've spent a lot of time talking about Oklahoma City. The star is now Paul George, and Houston, the star is now Chris Paul. Boston is making moves, but still hasn't made the move we really want them to make. Minnesota is still that, quote, talented team on the rise. The Lakers, just like the regular season, are pinning their hopes on Lonzo Ball. The Sixers' top draft picks are not playing. The pieces have moved. The stories haven't. In the West, the top and the bottom still look the same. And in the East, the top and the bottom largely look the same. There has been movement, but we're talking about the same 5 to 6 teams we were 5 or 6 months ago. I'm okay with it, but I thought it was kind of ironic. The other thing over the weekend, James Harden signed a massive contract, $228 million. Some NFL players came out publicly and said this is outrageous. We should be paid more. If you want to know who should be outraged, it's LeBron James. Because now guys are making as much or more than LeBron James. Isaiah Thomas could sign a contract in the next year that pays him significantly more than LeBron James. But you have to realize when it comes to contracts, it's all about timing. The highest paid player right now in the NFL on an annual basis is Joe Flacco. Most don't consider him a top 10 quarterback. Right now in the NFL, we looked it up this morning, Kellen Moore makes more money than Dak Prescott at the quarterback position for the Dallas Cowboys. You can't get caught up in what people are making because so much of a contract is timing based. Dak Prescott will be the second highest paid Dallas Cowboy quarterback. And he is absolutely the most important player for the Cowboys. And I would say because of the popularity of the Cowboys, and at Fox, we air like 8 Cowboy games this year on national TV. He will be the most important player for our network, Fox Sports. So when you get caught up on a guy makes this and a guy makes that, there are so many things. Timing is big. Mike Conley, because of the scarcity of other guards on the market, made a fortune. I wouldn't want to pay Mike Conley that, but given what Memphis had as options, Otto Porter and Mike Conley, good players, not stars, are making a fortune. So, and I said this earlier, and I really believe this, is that NBA players, yes, I'll say it again, should be more highly compensated than NFL players. They should be. Gronk, for instance, may be the best tight end in the history of football. In Vegas, he's not worth a point a game. Julio Jones may very well be the best wide receiver in football. He missed 2 games this year. Atlanta scored in the 40s both times, above their season average. Outside of quarterback, football is overwhelmingly about a multitude of players, choreography, and a system. Every sport has a different culture. In baseball, the pitcher plays only every 4th or 5th game, and he is the most important if you want to win a World Series. In fact, it's virtually impossible to win a World Series without a good bullpen. Mariano Rivera gave Joe Torre every one of those rings. He secured it. So when you look at basketball players, it is more of an artistic sport than a system sport. For Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, go score. In fact, if it was about systems, then why doesn't everybody in basketball copy the triangle? And nobody did. Because we all understood it was an offense that only truly worked if Michael or Kobe were finishing on the wing. So basketball players just picked, when it comes to monetary success, they picked the right sport. Football players, it's a system sport, and it always has been. That's why Alabama can be average at quarterback and win multiple national championships. It's why the New England Patriots can be largely average at running back and win multiple national championships. It's just the way the sports work. It's nothing against Gronk. I think he's a far more talented football player than Otto Porter is a basketball player, though talented still. But basketball's always going to be more individualistic, more creative, and more about the player, not the system. Good to have you in. Buck and John Smoltz will join us. Alex Rodriguez just did. Dion Waiters as well. And Rob Manfred started the show in the first hour. Pitbull performed earlier today.
Well, he was doing his sound check, but we took it as a personal performance for us.
I felt like it was a personal performance.
He really was serenading you.
We got in, both of us got in like 7 o'clock, same flight last night from Miami. Not a bad flight. Less than 5 hours from L.A. to Miami. It really is a very unique place. Like, of all the cities in America, like, it was a Sunday night, and I live near the beach in Los Angeles. And a Sunday night in the summer, it's dead. They're closing the doors at 11 o'clock. We went out last night.
They're just opening the doors.
We were in a steakhouse last night at about 11:30. And there was more wattage and lights on than in 90% of the cities in America at dusk.
Yeah.
Miami is an incredibly unique place, and baseball picked a good place to host an All Star game. Buck and John Smoltz around the corner. Oh, it's great to be here, Marlins Park, Miami. Christine Leahy is joining us.
It almost sounded like you were about to sing along with the song. Oh, it's getting hot in her.
We're way out in center field. You can see behind us. Last year we did San Diego, and this is Miami. It's, Miami in the summer can get very humid. We had a thunderstorm, which actually woke me up at about 6 in the morning. And you need those thunderstorms here. It would be really humid. It kind of breaks up the humidity. It is so beautiful here. But this stadium is a little removed from downtown Miami, which I think for traffic's probably better. It was easy for us to get here. The roof is retractable. This wall, that wall you look at right now, sorry about the radio people, but that thing opens up on a really, really cool afternoon. So baseball starts, obviously, in April. And if you're successful, you're playing in September, October. Now, in the summer in Miami, mostly that window is closed and the roof is generally closed. And the reason they had to have a roof here was because so much of the audience here comes from north of town, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm, Boca, and they're not going to come if the weather report in the summer is there may be a thunderstorm. So they had to, and Seattle's had a bit of this as well, which is, okay, I'll go to watch a Mariner game if I'm sure that it's not going to get rained out. And so there are a handful of American cities where, the roof stuff works. And in Miami, and having lived in Tampa before and had a place for a while in Naples, in the summer it can be prohibitively hot. And to secure a comfortable environment, obviously sometimes you need a roof. So I'm not a big fan of roofs and retractable roofs, but in Miami it's the only way to make it work. Now, Giancarlo Stanton is in the home run derby tonight. He is a massive man. Aaron Judge is also in it. He is a massive man. And then the Twins have a guy in, and the Nats do, and the Dodgers do. Rob Manfred, the commissioner, was on earlier today, and I said, sometimes baseball needs to just not overthink stuff. I used a water park with you as my example. Is I know when I go to a water park, it's a petri dish sort of for germs, right? Like there's 10,000 people at a water park.
Well, I never thought of it that way until today. Thank you.
Slide plus toilet equals water park. But I go there knowing I'm going to have a great time with my kids. And it's like the Transformer movies. It's an alien that turns into a car. It's a robot into a car. It made $4 billion. People thought Transformers was cool. Don't overthink the room on stuff. Baseball's got a bunch of home runs this year. I don't know why. But in the end, fans like home runs. The home run derby tonight is probably the most anticipated in a decade. And here was the commissioner on why he thinks baseball's got a spike in home runs.
We have seen a change in the way that the game is taught at the youth level, a change in approach at the major league level, way more analytics, way more tolerance of plays like strikeouts that people didn't used to like. Whatever changes you're seeing out there in terms of the way the game is being played, it's as a result of really smart general managers and managers deciding that these changes give their teams the best chance to win.
I mean, when people say the ball is juiced, just think about what that would mean. That would mean Rawlings, which has had a relationship with baseball since, I believe, 1904, would not tell baseball and would suddenly change a baseball, therefore potentially destroying their business. Or it would mean the commissioner, who's only had the job since January of 2015, and he's going to be a commissioner for 15 years. It's a heck of a life, right? He is going to alter the baseballs and not tell anybody. So I'm going to go with the balls aren't juiced. I'm going to go with analytics, which tell you now that a strikeout is not as prohibitive as a ground ball, which can be 2 outs. So what is happening is, due to defensive shifts, players are coming to the plate, swinging for the fence, and pitchers now, athletes are bigger and stronger, are all throwing 95 miles an hour. They didn't. I always tell the story. When I was a kid, the Cincinnati Reds were the first dynasty of my life. They had one guy that threw in the mid-90s, Don Gullett. Everybody else, Fred Norman, Jack Billingsley, Clay Carroll, Raleigh Eastwick, they were 88 to 90. So you got everybody throwing 97. You have batters coming up, big, strong kids that are swinging up now because they don't want ground balls, and the balls are zooming out of the park. And there's different parks that have moved the wall in. A-Rod was on earlier today on our show talking about Aaron Judge of the Yankees, and, you know, his takeaway was this could be a LeBron James guy. That his home runs are, we have never seen a guy this big and strong. Listen, Mickey Mantle was a great baseball player. Babe Ruth is a legend. Babe Ruth, Christine, was only 6'2". Now think about this. You've seen the pictures of Babe Ruth. Mm-hmm. He looks like gigantic.
You are Babe Ruth.
No, I'm 6'2", 197 this morning. So I am Babe Ruth if I had a porterhouse steak and like a loaf of bread.
Okay.
So the point is, people are bigger and stronger. This is A-Rod earlier today on the Yankees' Aaron Judge.
But here's a guy, Colin, that I'm so excited for. For the first time in a long time, we have a LeBron James type of personality and size that can transcend sports. Here's a guy who's 6'7", 275 pounds, 9% body fat, 32-inch vertical. The guy bench presses 400 pounds, squats 500 pounds, and he's an amazing figure. I mean, and for the next generation to say, well, there's a guy that could be a tight end and an all-pro, and he chose baseball. Why can't I? And hopefully the kids are taking notes of Aaron Judge.
Good stuff. Here's Christine with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herdline News.
Well, Dwayne Wade opted into the last year of his contract, but then there were talks that he wanted to get out, some sort of a buyout agreement, so maybe he could go play with LeBron and the Cavs. But especially since Jimmy Butler is no longer there, maybe he didn't want to be part of the rebuilding process. So now Fred Hoiberg is saying that they have every intention of keeping Wade with the Bulls in the role of a leader and mentor.
Well, for that, he's great.
It is, but it's a lot of money. And if a guy really doesn't want to be there, I don't like that idea. So I don't know if this is a negotiation tactic or what it is, but if Wade doesn't want to be there, he's certainly not going to be a leader and a mentor. Right? If he wants to go play for a team that
So basically he chose Chicago, but now he doesn't like Chicago.
Well, he chose Chicago because of the money that came with that contract, and then maybe was hoping for a buyout. Or he didn't realize that the Jimmy Butler thing was going to happen.
How much are they going to pay him?
It's somewhere in the 20s, I want to say.
I could swallow one more $20 million a year from D-Wade. He has his moments. He can't play back-to-backs, but he has his moments.
Yeah, he does. Also, there's an interesting story now coming out about Gordon Hayward and why he may have chosen to go to the Celtics.
Oh.
I don't like it.
Oh.
I don't like it at all.
Interesting.
Brooklyn Nets forward Trevor Booker, who played with Hayward for 3 years with the Jazz, is now saying that Gordon is a guy who doesn't really want to be the man. I'm not sure he wanted a franchise on his shoulders. That's interesting to me because wasn't he the man with Utah for so long?
So basically, Danny Ainge got a guy who doesn't want to be the guy.
That's where you're going to go?
Yeah.
Come on, Colin.
Yeah. Genius Danny Ainge.
Danny Ainge, okay, oh my goodness. What do you think he was in Utah? He was the face of the franchise.
But he didn't like it.
By the way, had he stayed, he would have become an even bigger face of the franchise.
So he went to Boston
so he went to Boston to hide?
He went to Boston so he could be one of many players.
If he wanted to hide, he'd go to Miami. Seriously, because Miami isn't going to have nearly as good of a shot as the Celtics are. But it's Danny's fault. Danny should have said, no, Gordon, no thank you.
Genius.
We don't need your services.
Danny Ainge, genius.
Please.
He and Elon Musk are a couple of geniuses.
Help out my son in Utah. Stay there. And finally, this is really, really big news for the Mayweather-McGregor fight. We have just learned that Fox and FS1 will be a huge part of the fight on August 26th. All the prelims and the pre-fight shows will air live on Fox. It will start at 6 o'clock Eastern. And we'll have the post-fight show on FS1. And on the Friday before the fight, we'll have the weigh-in and then the World Tour.
I can't believe the fight's happening.
I said that. I was reading this like, I can't believe this is actually happening. I thought for sure this was never going to happen. It was just all talk.
And it's happening quick.
Publicity. Really quick. It's next month.
5 weeks.
And now we're going to have all of the press conferences on our air. So, you know what? I will at least say this. We're going to get a lot of good sound bites.
Yeah.
I really enjoy watching Conor McGregor slowly punch a bag. That has been entertaining for me. And then for him to tell Mayweather that he is in quicksand. It's funny. It's comical. I cannot believe this is happening.
Neither can I. Christine with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
I'd like to go back a few months and play a piece of audio and videotape. That's what we do at this network. This is Joe Buck and John Smoltz calling the World Series final out. I'm told we have the tape. It's in our archives. Please play it now if you could, director person.
Here's the 0-1. This is going to be a tough play. Bryant, the Cubs win the World Series. Bryant makes the play. It's over.
A little chopper. It's going to be a tough play.
Bryant thought the Cubs have won the World Series.
Tell me your first, John Smoltz, you've risen to a great player, great broadcaster. Your first baseball memory. You're going to go back to 6, and I'm going to ask you in a second. What is your first baseball memory?
Well, it's for me, it's T-ball, but you got to understand, I was playing the accordion for a long time, so I didn't really have. Yeah,
true. He grew up playing the accordion.
I played the accordion, and I watched baseball on TV.
What? So
was that your first love?
No, but that's what my parents did. So that's what I was.
They played the accordion.
Both played the accordion.
You know how Earl Woods took Tiger Woods to hit golf balls? His dad took him to play the accordion.
That's right.
Can you still play?
By ear, but not anymore. That I used to. But.
So when you played baseball, like golf, is a sport that football you can play for the first time at 15, and you can be athletic, and it works. It's not that way with golf. It's not that way with baseball. When was the moment you knew, okay, I'm pretty good?
Actually, they didn't have a clue. My mom and dad didn't have a clue, but they allowed me to play, which was cool, right? When I started throwing a baseball the first time and naturally the ball would come out of my hand, I was like, wow. But, hitting off a tee or anything like that, I used to go against a brick wall all the time and play catch and emulate and try to be whoever the popular person at the time was. So actually it was really throwing a baseball when I went, wow, this is not everybody can throw it this hard, and I wasn't a very big guy for the longest time.
My first memory is being a fan of Johnny Bench, watching Joe Garagiola on my orange couch at home with my mother, and being a fan of baseball. Back then it was one game a week. You were probably with your father in the Cardinals booth, right?
Yeah. Well, I, too, like John, grew up playing the accordion. And I think it was about the time I was 4. Now, I think I was 3, and I was in the back of the booth, and I distinctly remember sitting. They had these 2 seats on each side above where my dad sat with Mike Shannon, and back then I think it was Bob Starr, who was also broadcasting for the Cardinals. And I was 3, and I was probably hyper, and there was a Coke sitting on the desk in front of me. and I hit it with my hand, and I knocked it down over all of them while they were broadcasting. And they turned around ready to kill, thinking that somebody walked in there and just threw something on them. But it was little fat Joey, and somehow I repressed that memory and went into a life in broadcasting. I think I'd be terrorized by that.
So you end up at the World Series last year, and critical acclaim, ratings through the roof. Now the Cubs are a different team, and baseball's different. I know the Warriors are going to be really good this year. And I know the Patriots, because I had Belichick Brady. But baseball's different. The White Sox have, 15 years ago, a big year, disappear. The Royals erode rather quickly. Like, is it possible? It was lightning in a bottle for the Cubs, and they're not going to duplicate it.
For me, it was possible because of the perfect storm. They were building something really good with their position players. When everything goes right, yes, anything's possible, and their pitching was at a historic level. This year, you can't duplicate it. I didn't think they would. So where I'm wrong is I thought they'd be a better overall team, not win more games. Those don't go hand in hand sometimes, because I knew as a pitcher it's hard to duplicate what Arrieta, Lester, Hendricks, even Hamels and Lackey did. So from that standpoint, it's a little shocking that they've been this distance to what they used to be, and it's now going to get to a point where it's going to be much more difficult to get that back. That's what's difficult about baseball. Yeah, it's a long season, but when you're a pitcher, you don't just 2 starts click and you go on a 10-0 run. That doesn't usually happen. You usually either have it and you're close and you can keep it going. So they're going to need some help, believe it or not.
It's interesting. I'm watching Aaron Judge, and he's just big. And I remember reading a Baseball America 2 years ago about him, and I'm like, 6'7" outfielder. I'm like, oh, he's going to be a stiff. He can't run. Then you see him, and you're like, oh, my Lord. I mean, Babe Ruth was 6'2", 210. He would be literally, Babe Ruth would look like a ball boy compared to Aaron Judge. Alex Rodriguez came on, and he's like, he could be our LeBron. Like, he doesn't look like anybody. Who does he compare to? Joe, I'll start with you. I can remember the first time I saw Steve Balboni. Or even Jay Buhner. I was like, Jay was ripped. And I didn't think of Jim Rice the first time I saw him in the 70s. Just looked bigger than everybody. Go back to your young broadcasting days. Who is Aaron Judge 40, 50 years removed? Have we seen anything like this?
Mark Bavaro, the tight end for the Giants. I have never seen anybody like that. Other people would say Frank Howard. Dave Kingman.
Yeah.
But I'm like you. You think somebody 6'7", 280 is going to be literally a stiff. Like, they're not going to be able to move like that. He played some center field in college. He was a good basketball player. He was a good football player. He's an athlete, and that's the freak part, that he's an athlete at that size.
Right.
I think he's played the heck out of right field. Nobody's talked about that, but he talks 30 home runs. But defensively, he moves around well for a huge man. So I can't, personally in baseball, in my experience, I can't compare him to anybody.
You played with guys like Lemke, who were not physical. Their stature was limited. Baseball is a sport. Soccer's got this, too. There are different skill sets.
Yeah.
You can, like a second baseman shouldn't be too tall, should have good hands, quick feet. Was there anybody that you saw in the minor league system that was too big, that was too clunky?
There's been a couple that have not made it. It's a size that doesn't have a lot of history to it.
Right.
Of success.
That's right.
The guys that I saw, Dave Winfield, I was like, wow, this guy's a monster. He stands 5 feet away from the plate, and then he dives in, looks like he's going to hit it 500 feet. Frank Thomas was a huge human being that dominated the right side of the batter's box. But you don't see a whole lot. I remember facing guys that you go, first of all, for a pitcher, it's visibly pleasing. Like, it looks like you could throw a strike anytime you want until they hit the baseball about 500 feet. So he's an exception, because I say in a short period of time, you can't make the adjustments he's made if you're not athletic, if you're not gifted. He struck out 40% of the time last year. This wasn't a given. Nobody in the history of baseball could have predicted what he's doing in this short of a time. So credit him and his willingness to adapt. That's been the biggest thing that I've noticed.
Who was hard for you? Ricky Henderson had kind of a historically small strike zone. Were there guys that were the opposite of Aaron Judge that you, with your expertise, struggled with?
Yeah, any smaller, fast guy, I would just as soon not see them. If they put a lineup of 8, I was done. 8 of those guys would have, because I wanted the free swingers. I wanted the guys that wanted to hit it a country mile. I wanted guys to be aggressive because I was going to be aggressive. Brett Butler's gave me problem. All the guys that would slap it and just, because to me, I had to learn in my later year of my career that I don't need to throw it hard to those guys. I don't even need to be aggressive. I got to throw strikes. So, yes, those guys gave me more fits than any of the big sluggers I've ever faced.
You know, being in St. Louis, Joe, for all those years, kind of the Spurs, the Patriots, and the Cardinals have this historic, dynastic kind of feel to them. That it's the system's bigger than the player. Pujols leaves, they have some immediate success. Something's, though, not right in St. Louis right now. They had some hard throwers come up. What's going on with St. Louis? Because to me, DeWitt family, their history, their minor league system's always been, you know, among their peers, a notch above. It doesn't feel right now.
Yeah, and that was bound to happen at some point. They have had this unbelievable run of success under DeWitt, and then it was La Russa, and now it's Mike Matheny, and it's been a lot of consistency. But I don't think they're a well-made team. They don't fit together, and they put a lot of chips on Randall Grichuk as an outfielder to be consistent and to supply power, and Steven Piscotty, and neither one have been consistent or powerful. And they seem to have like 9 second basemen, and they're trying to fit all these guys in, but nobody really has their spot. And the one guy they had that had power, they traded to the Atlanta Braves and Matt Adams for a minor leaguer because he didn't really fit. Well, he probably could have fit at first base, but they just had a lot of moving parts, and all this fluidity has led to inconsistency because nobody knows where they're playing every day, and they've got a lot of parts that aren't really dynamic players for few spots. They're going to have to shed some of those players and, you know, try to turn that into some pitching and go with their gut on some guys that have come up. Paul DeYoung, a young infielder. They signed Wong to a deal. I mean, I could go on, but it's just a lot of pieces that don't seem to fit well for a 25-man roster.
I went and watched the game with Clayton Kershaw pitching last year, Joe Buck, John Smoltz, and if it wasn't for a pitching change by the Padres in the 7th, I would have been in and out of the stadium in an hour 38. He reminds me of a really overpowering Randy Jones. Remember the Padres pitcher? I mean, Clayton's just moving through it. It's interesting. Like, if a quarterback succeeds, I know why. Tom's efficient, doesn't have the greatest arm strength. But usually in baseball, if you're overpowering, it's like, oh, you've got overpowering stuff. I mean, when you watch Kershaw, is somebody at an elevated level? Is it overpowering? Is it the pace? Is it the IQ? Is it the understanding? Is it moving the plate? Like, why is he so dominant?
It's the total package. He has become one in himself, meaning he knows his mechanics better than anybody, and he repeats them better than anybody. You could have a guy with the greatest gifts and tools, but if he doesn't know how to get to those, it doesn't mean as much. He has a unique delivery. He works out extremely hard. He's smart. He's dedicated. But he just flat out can throw the ball where he wants to with that stuff better than anybody. And that in and of itself makes it's like poetry. It's like watching a great mastery of somebody that you'd think cannot last this long and transcend time. And he has been able to do that. His fastball doesn't move very much. His curveball is fantastic. His slider, that slider that he throws is the evolution of Clayton Kershaw because he was a 2-pitch pitcher. He's now a 3.5-pitch pitcher, and hitters just can't pick it up with the uniqueness of the way that he has that double leg kick and goes. But you can't do that if you're not physically fit, mentally ready, and he has all the components for that.
Yeah, he's a pretty feisty guy. By the way, you told a story last night, which I found odd and unsettling, that you used to sleep more on the nights you pitched. Yeah. It was really uncomfortable for everybody in the room. So
it makes sense, though.
He sleeps till noon, so I'm not a sleeper. So, Joe Buck, so you're doing – do we have the call yet, Director, man? When you're doing the World Series.
So you're close with your staff.
And if you call him by his name, he might respond.
Literally, we have 40 people here. Hey, you, get me a coffee. Anyway.
Oh, no.
So that's Wit
album. Okay, so here's the point.
Amy.
When you were in the Cubs thing, and this is a dumb question by a broadcaster, but this was history. Like, everybody was talking about it. When you're doing stuff and you're in that moment last year, you've been doing this forever. It felt different. Like, I was nervous for you.
I was nervous for me.
Kind of, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you screw that up, you're done.
You're done.
Done.
I would ask him to get rid of you.
No, I would ask for them to get rid of me. I wouldn't want to come back.
So for all your years and all your innings, it was different last year.
Yeah, it was. That'll never be duplicated in any of our lifetimes. Nobody will say, oh, well, that team hasn't won in 108 years. You know, you hadn't been even at the World Series since right after World War II at Wrigley Field. So, you know, while people say, well, what was it like compared to the Red Sox in 2004? Well, the Red Sox had been there in the World Series. They hadn't won, but they had at least been there. And this was an even longer drought. I just don't know how it could get better than that.
When you were first starting in broadcasting, and I'll ask you this, too, at later stage, because you were playing baseball, did you ever write down a call like, I'm going to write this down for the moment? I
did, yeah.
I did, too, and it wasn't great.
Oh, I did it for the McGuire home run in 98, and he was chasing down Maris, and everybody kept asking me, what are you going to say? What are you going to say? What are you going to say? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to say anytime I open my mouth and I'm doing a game. But after enough people ask you, you write it down. You start thinking about it going to bed. You think about it waking up. And I wrote some dumb, like, haiku to spew out to the world when he hit it. And because that home run that broke the record was literally the shortest, least fair home run he ever hit.
It was.
I couldn't get I had to make sure it was a home run. So I couldn't ever get my eyes down to my stupid haiku, and I never said it. So, and I'm glad I didn't. And because I had my head up, I noticed that he leapt over first base or leaped over first base, and that became part of the call. So it was a great lesson, and I didn't have to learn it the hard way, that you can't script those moments. They're corny and they sound like they're scripted. You have to do whatever feels right in the moment.
Do you, like they say, football coaches script plays? So John Smoltz, Joe Buck, when you would go into a big game, would you mentally think this is how the first inning is going to work? Yeah. Like how much mental preparation is there beyond I got to go out, get my sleep, hydrate, Atlanta, summer? How much is mental?
Well, it's funny. I over-prepare. Well, at least I spend more time as a broadcaster than I would do ever as a pitcher, ever. Like, there's so much more today, so much more analytics, so much more information. It actually can cripple you, as you get into this industry because you can get obsessed with it. As a pitcher, I didn't pay attention to any of it. I watched a little video. I knew my game plan. I knew my strengths, and I stuck with it. There's only one time I've ever taken a catcher and scripted the first inning. Once. It was Brian McCann, rookie year, and I wanted to take him through the Houston Astros, who I'd faced 100 times. And I said, here's what we're going to do. Because with a veteran catcher, you kind of work together.
Sure.
And I said, we're going to throw all sliders in the first inning. I said, Biggio's going to swing at the first three sliders. We're going to strike him out. We're going to get through the first inning with sliders, and then we're going to have them eaten out of our hand with fastballs later in the game. He goes, all right. He thought this was natural practice for big league baseball. The eyes, when the third swing and a miss for Biggio out of McCann were so big, he got the ball, threw it to third base. He told me later, he goes, I'm way over my head. But it worked out perfectly. I ended up giving up a run, but won that game because in my mind, I had seen these guys so many times. Baseball comes down to when it works the best, you knew what I'm going to do, and I know what you're going to do, and it comes down to who's going to execute the best.
What was your best pitch?
The slider, basically. I pitched off my fastball, but my slider was my bread and butter. It was every day I would wake up going, thank God I've got this pitch.
What was your fastball, 93?
93 to 94 as a starter, and then when I went in the closer's role, 97 to 98.
Oh, that's gas.
So
you threw 97.
I threw a pitch at 100 miles an hour as a closer, and Vinny Castilla hit it over the train tracks in Houston.
Wow. You never got to the story of why you slept so much only on the day before you pitched.
I believed for me to store up, I would tell my family and my kids, look, you can do whatever you want 4 days, but the day I pitch, I need sleep. And I want to rest until I wake up because I'm going to store up all my energy. I'm a guy who likes to get up and do things and be active. I have to make 125 decisions today. That was what we averaged, 125 pitches, 115. And I want to be prepared to make those decisions. And then after that, I'm going to be goofy and watch Dumb and Dumber and do everything else. So that's why I slept. I was comfortable in big games, taking a nap. I missed all the pregame speeches in our seventh games because I was sitting in the training room table curled up taking a nap because I felt more comfortable just not overthinking it. And just I wanted to be in that moment so bad that I actually would relax and slow everything down by taking a nap.
You just described what my audience does for the 3 hours I'm on.
I was thinking, he sounds like a wonderful guy to be married to, doesn't it? You guys do whatever you want. I'm going to be sleeping, and then I'm going to watch Dumb and Dumber.
Once every 7 days, that's
right.
fine.
That's right.
And you were very in the moment. That's great.
John Smoltz, Joe Buck in Miami. Thanks, guys. It's the Herd.
Thank you. Got it.
With Ceric Technology, dentists create a crown in just one appointment. Call 1-800-DENTIST or go to 1-800-DENTIST.com/Ceric, C-E-R-E-C. You see Joe Madden. It's pictures. He's got all the Cubs out there.
Right behind us, actually.
Right behind us, Joe Madden, who leads the Cubs last year. It was really a team effort. Players, Theo Epstein, ownership group, Joe Madden, win it for the Cubs. But, baseball's tough, man. Injuries, sometimes, they talk about these baseball staffs. They go into the postseason, and, you pitch extra innings, and they're really intense postseason innings. And you come back to spring training, and there's arm fatigue. And that's why I don't know what the record is, Christine, but like in the football now, with the CBA, there's a real off season. I mean, like offensive linemen now, linemen get like 8 weeks off. Mm-hmm. But in the NBA, that's why I've always been kind of reluctant to have my favorite team or player, they go to the Olympics. Because I remember Steve Smith played in the NBA for a long time, and now on NBA TV. Yep. And he did some Olympic run one time, and he said, man, I didn't get my legs until like January, February. He goes, like I've said, I think it's great that LeBron and Kobe and MJ and Duncan and all the great players represent the country. But after you do it once, like you got to give. After a guy gets like 27, 28, those miles start adding up. I mean, think about Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan. Think about LeBron now. How many games, playoff minutes, like not Denver on a Tuesday. So I think sometimes with baseball, like the Cubs this year, it's you wear through that staff. There's all these totally intense innings pitched, 7-game series, and you're not going to be the same staff the following year. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's not. But you don't see the repeat championships in baseball, it seems like to me. I mean, it just feels like in baseball, I remember a couple of years ago at my former employer, everybody picked division winners in the World Series, and nobody got it right. Both of us know if we picked the top 5 in the East and West,
we'd do it.
We'd be. And by the way, last year I always pick like in August when I come back in a couple of weeks. I'm going to go on a quick vacation here in a couple of weeks. When I come back, I'll make my NFL predictions, and I'll get 60% on the divisions. Then there will be a surprise team or two, but generally in the NFL, if you have a really good quarterback, you generally win a bunch of games. So that's where we stand. Folks, whether you're headed to Grandma's house, the beach, or loading up the family car for parts unknown, driving season is in full swing, and the last thing your road trip needs is to be ruined by an unexpected car repair. Hundreds, thousands, maybe even more to fix. What you need is extended service protection. Yep, carshield.com. Pick your mechanic. He can even be at the dealership, and they reimburse him directly. They have 24/7 roadside assistance. They also provide a rental car. All you have to do is go to carshield.com and put in the code HERD, H-E-R-D, or you can call 800-CAR-6100 and mention the code HERD. That's 800-CAR-6100 and mention the code HERD. Carshield.com, GPS, electronics. If you don't have a warranty, you can go upside down fast. That's no place you want to be. We had a great show today. Great stories all day. Rob Manfred, the baseball commissioner. Joe Buck and John Smoltz, who were so good last year in the World Series. Good dudes. A-Rod, Kevin Burkhardt. Burkhardt, last night, leaving after dinner, ripped his ankle up.
I know. I saw he was wearing a brace.
Badly.
How did that happen?
He was leaving where we were going to dinner and apparently rolled it. So if his wife is listening, he's okay. But last night there was a Kevin Burkhardt rolling on the sidewalk.
Yeah, at first I thought he was wearing mismatching socks, and I wanted to just give him a heads up, and then I realized that one was a brace.
Yeah, one was actually a brace.
Yeah.
So we're in Miami, the Home Run Derby tonight at Marlins Park, which is a little off downtown. Giancarlo Stanton is the home run hitter of note in the Home Run Derby. He'll be the home favorite, obviously, and this will be 90% Marlin fans. Their attendance is so spotty, but for tonight, you're going to get a huge crowd. I think this is probably, in recent memory, probably the most anticipated home run derby. You'd love to get Bryce Harper in it, but there has been a feeling in baseball by some guys. You know how LeBron doesn't do the dunk contest?
Yes.
I think he should do one and then step out. There is a feeling in baseball sometimes. If you go into the home run derby, you start and you have some success, you start really swinging up and jacking home runs. So some guys don't want to be part of it. But tonight, as you look at an aerial shot of downtown, beautiful South Florida, Collins Avenue, Ocean Avenue, the Bay, We'll see you tomorrow. It's The Herd.